Queen Elizabeth was a very wise and intelligent woman. She could see a troublemaker when one crossed her path, and that was Meghan Markle. The Queen saw through Meghan. She knew that she was a gold digger. She knew that she was a grifter. And it's my view, Mieka, that it was the biggest mistake of his life. They're married unhappily. It's not a marriage at all. It's a hostage situation. He's Britain's first ChatGPT Prime Minister. Isn't it?
Yeah.
The human manifestation of AI
Yeah.
in politician form. Reverend Starmer, holier than thou, pious and meek, and grown-up politics and decency and a government of service. All of that nonsense. Then he gets into power. The picture would have no value if it didn't represent a prime minister in office but not in power.
So welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm Mieka Smiles, and today I'll be chatting with Expresso favourite Mark Dolan.
Well, listen, I'm glad you got the press release. The check's in the post. If I'm favourite, I'll take that.
Yeah, who it is my pleasure to meet for the first time today.
Yeah, it's really lovely to meet you, Mieka. I've spent all morning practising your name and I think I've got the hang of it.
Bless you. Bless you. Yeah, I've had all sorts. So the fact that you've got it correct is absolutely brilliant. So I have made sure to do my research on you, Mark.
Uh-oh. Well, that'll be the end of this conversation.
And
Can I just say I'm sorry? I was young. I was under the influence.
And what I have found out is that you're a Meghan Markle mega fan.
Well, she's my favourite. I was thinking of getting a tattoo, actually. Meghan Forever.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good. So we're going to dive straight in because there's a big story today saying that the late Queen Elizabeth actually advised Prince Harry not to get married to Meghan, but just to hold it off a little bit. Hold it off, see how it goes. So yeah, I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think first of all, do you think she actually advised that?
Yeah.
And number two, do you think actually he did the right thing by ignoring it? Because they've been married 8 years now.
Well, I think you might have been given a bum steer about my alleged support for Meghan Markle.
Right, okay.
Because it's my view that Queen Elizabeth was a very wise and intelligent woman. Mm-hmm. She was an older woman at the time that Harry and Meghan were courting, and she could see a troublemaker when one crossed her path, and that was Meghan Markle.
Okay.
The Queen saw through Meghan. She knew that she was a gold digger. She knew that she was a grifter. And of course, don't forget, we've got previous evidence that one of her closest confidants, Lady Anson, who was pretty much, other than a member of the family, one of the closest people to the late Queen. Mm-hmm. And Anson, in her diaries, wrote that she took the view Meghan didn't marry for love, but married for ambition, a view tacitly supported by the Queen. Mm-hmm. So the Queen was no Meghan fan from day one. And the Queen was a wise lady and recommended, it's like, okay, it's your life, which is, of course, what a grandmother will say to a grandson, but slow it right down. And he ignored her advice. And it's my view, Mieka, that it was the biggest mistake of his life.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you look at what's happened post-Meghan, he's fallen out with his family. Mm-hmm. He's no longer in speaking terms with his brother, who, to be polite on a family show, and this is a quote from a royal insider, he effing hates his brother. He's not on great terms with his father. He gets 45 minutes a year. Mm-hmm. And he's left his country. He loves this country. Mm-hmm. I mean, Harry, if nothing else, is a patriot. He's gone. And so for me, ever since he married Meghan, it's been downhill. And I think the Queen was right. The Queen said slow down, but I think that was an example, Mieka, of the Queen's understatement. So if you read between the lines, slow down is, I think again. I think that's what slow down is.
Yeah.
And we know that this, of course, is based on an amazing new book by Hugo Vickers, who has been around the block a few times. He's been reporting on the royals for decades. He knows them intimately. And he reports in the book that Philip was also onto Meghan from day one, reportedly told Harry, have fun, but don't marry her. Mm-hmm. And again, Philip will have known girls like Meghan in his own youth. Yeah. And he'll seen her coming a mile off. Unfortunately, Harry was naive and completely taken in.
Yeah, okay, so they have, what I would say, and believe me, I am no Meghan Markle fan, they have been married for 8 years now. So do you think that he did the right thing by kind of diving in and getting married to Meghan? Because actually, they haven't divorced, they're still together. Do you think that maybe he did do the right thing by...
They're married unhappily.
Yeah.
Okay. This, in my view,
Okay.
and based upon my
So
royal
you
sources,
don't believe the lovely Instagrams of them dancing together?
the PR fluff,
Okay.
and the headlines and the fakery. I've got royal contacts.
Yeah.
And I also have, like our viewers of the Daily Expresso, I've got eyes in my head and I've
Right.
got ears to hear. And you can just tell from Harry's body language, he's not happy.
Okay.
You know, he's been transported away from his country of birth. I mean, this is just, you know, the background to this is quite shocking because, in my view, it's not a marriage at all. It's a hostage situation. Right, poor Harry. We need to send in a SWAT team.
Right.
Right. It needs to be like Mission Impossible.
Okay.
Like Tom Cruise needs to kind of drop from the ceiling.
So Harry's not accountable here. It's all Meghan's nasty
Well,
doings.
I'm glad you said that. And of course, he's a grown man and,
Yeah.
you know, he's big and ugly enough to have made his own judgment. But he didn't listen to his grandmother. I think the Queen wasn't happy altogether. She was frozen out of plans for the wedding. This has emerged from the book by Hugo Vickers.
interesting.
She didn't like the dress. She didn't like the shoulders. And the truth is that the Queen is rightly, or will have been rightly, aggrieved because she bent over backwards to make Meghan very comfortable
Yeah.
and welcome.
Yeah.
As did the British press. You're in the press.
Yeah.
You know that when Meghan arrived, Fleet Street was so excited.
Oh, we were delighted. We were absolutely delighted by it. It was the wedding of to end all weddings, wasn't it? It was just
Yeah.
like a huge celebration, and we all got dressed up and
Yes,
wanted to
exactly.
be involved. And
Of course, and to the royal family welcomed Meghan, the Queen
Yeah.
in particular, and the press. The Queen broke with precedent. So, for example, she allowed Meghan and Harry to join the royal family
right.
for Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, let me tell you, is a privilege that was not granted to Catherine and William, who, by the
Interesting.
way, are going to be king and queen.
Yeah.
They didn't get that privilege,
Yeah.
but Meghan's narrative of victimhood still allowed her to feel like she'd been shortchanged. And so, you know, this is the context. The Queen called it out. The Queen's best friend took the view that Meghan didn't marry for love. Philip saw through this woman. Even Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Do you remember him? The less said about him, the better. But he is reported to have told his nephew, who is this girl? Check her out.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence. And if Harry, see, this is the truth, right? And I appreciate your offer of a defense to Meghan and Harry. You're right. They're married. They got 2 children, so that's always a blessing under any circumstances. I think they love their kids. I think Harry dotes on them. No problem. And yes, they're still married. I think the reason why they're still married is because they are stuck with each other. It's a brand.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they need money. They've got huge outgoings. Yes,
Yeah.
there's a few $1 million in the bank from Spare and the Netflix deal, but the income, the cash flow has slowed right down. But the outgoings, the bills keep coming.
Yeah.
So I think that they are business-wise forced to remain together.
Yeah.
And I suspect that marriage only ends when Harry ceases to be of use to Meghan, because if you look at her history, she disposes of people that she doesn't need anymore.
Yeah.
Her own father, Thomas Markle Sr., her
Yeah.
ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, she gets the part in Suits, $50,000 a show. She sends her rings back by return of post.
Yeah.
That's Meghan.
Unbelievable. So,
Apart from that, she's great.
Keeping on your favourite topic, Harry and Meghan, but we're moving it along slightly. So there's also been the story today about how Harry wants to be invited to Norfolk.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
To play Happy Families with the King and make sure that the King gets to spend time with his grandchildren. This has apparently come from Harry's mates who've said this.
I wonder, did those mates
And-
sound a lot like Harry? When they called, is it the Sun or the Times, I think, that had this exclusive, wasn't it?
I think I saw it in the Telegraph.
Telegraph, there you go. So it's what, you know, in the Telegraph,
Yeah.
and they get a call, a tip off from Harry's friend who sounds mysteriously like Harry. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
This isn't Prince Harry calling.
Yeah.
Someone called Bob. Anyway, look, I mean, this is blatant manipulation of the narrative here. This
okay.
is, in my view, Mieka, classic Sussex PR control. You know, Meghan in particular is obsessed with her public image.
Yeah.
And staying relevant, and also what that message is about the brand. So, you know, this story has been planted, in my humble opinion, by the Sussexes.
Yeah, interesting.
And it's there as leverage, almost, you could argue, emotional blackmail on the king. Because it's very much a case of saying, well, if you want to see your grandkids, you're going to have to invite all of us over.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why this imaginary friend of Harry's that's spoken to the press has spoken out is because what Harry's thinking and hoping is that if the king invites the family over, well, then they'll get the royal ring of steel, which sounds obscene. Please, family show. This is the armed cops, the bodyguards, the helicopters, the police outriders, the whistle. And of course, you see, that's what Harry lives for, Mieka.
Yeah,
that's his world.
Make him feel very
Isn't
special.
it? It's a flex, it's gangster. Because he is, you know, pottering around in the kind of art shops of Montecito, bored out of his mind, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, if you take this story on face value, then a concerned friend has spoken out on behalf of the Sussexes. I think if you live in the real world, you'll know that what the Sussex have done is planted this story in order to put pressure on the king. By the way, a kindly man who is quite busy being the sovereign of the United Kingdom. So he's got a few things on his mind. And he's also battling cancer, and he's a father, and he's a husband. And so he's got to deal with this now, these headlines. And I think it's so wrong that the Sussexes could be accused of manipulating the situation like this, putting pressure on the guy. But yeah, this is the ace card, is if they get the invite from the palace, then they get the royal protection. I don't think it's going to happen, by the way.
Because I suppose what you're saying is it could kind of reflect badly on the king if it doesn't happen. So it's like kind of out there that they want this to...
You've nailed it. You've nailed it. You see, this is it. You've nailed it. It's a bear trap.
Yeah.
Because basically the king can't win. Because if he invites the couple, well, then they get the outriders, they get the whistle, they get the helicopters, they get the headlines. And the problem with that, you see, because the king is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he welcomes them, what happens when one of the courtiers is a little rude to Meghan Markle? Or what happens if a distant cousin...
Yeah, the trust is gone, hasn't it?
Do you know what I mean?
It's just gone.
Yeah. Imagine, is it Meghan, are you going to have another baby? If so, what will that baby look like? Bang. There's your second Oprah interview. There's your second spare. Right, spare 2, the revenge. This time it's personal. You know, so it's material for the couple. More victimhood. Meghan will go and she will feel insulted. She will feel the victim of prejudice. And here we go again. And then, but as you said, if he doesn't invite them, he's the baddie, which of course is their dream.
So just one more question on that, then, if you will.
Of course.
What would you tell a couple to do next? Like, what if you were advising them? What would you tell Harry and Meghan to do other than like?
Well, given that I think that Harry has essentially joined the cult of Meghan, because I think that's what Meghan is. It's a cult, and I think that I would have to get Harry on his own.
Interesting.
I'd have to get him away from his family.
Separate him off.
And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Harry were to come to the UK this summer on his own. And it was noteworthy that when he last came to the UK, and I've been studying this guy for years, the first time I've seen a genuine smile in months. He enjoyed his last trip here.
Yeah, very natural with the press.
Very natural.
Yeah.
The well child, which he cares about.
Yeah.
He loved seeing his dad. He does love his dad.
Yeah.
So I'd get him on his own and I would say, you must leave this woman. You must divorce Meghan Markle. There's no two ways about it. It's the only way that he gets his identity back, his self-worth. It's the only way he gets control of his public image again. Because let's not forget, we only ever see Harry when she decides to put him on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's like the plaything. He's the help.
That's true.
Isn't it? He's the spare in his own marriage. He also, if he goes solo, he gets his career back and starts to make some money. Because, I mean, can you remember the last time this guy made $1?
Yeah, other than spare. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And then that money's, gone. So because, for example, he was getting $500,000 for a speaking agent when they moved to North America.
Right.
That's gone down to $50K. Now, by the time you've had your manager and your agent and tax man, so he needs money. And look, I'm not a home wrecker. I understand it will be an impact on the kids. But I just see a very unhappy guy that's been cut off from his own family. That would be if I had the two of them together, well, that's a great question. If I had the two of them together, I would say, folks, I've got 2 words for you.
Yeah.
Get real.
Yeah.
Okay. Fire all of the public relations people.
Yeah.
Delete that Instagram and just be human beings.
Yeah.
Just raise your kids and enough virtue signalling about the environment whilst you travel around the world.
Weird tours,
the private jet, the fake royal tours, bizarre. And just get real and be real. But of course, that won't happen because Meghan isn't real. I mean, I've got before we move on, the wildest conversation with Charlotte Griffiths, who I'm sure you know, Mail on Sunday editor at large.
Okay.
And she was on my Talk TV show. She alleged, and of course the Sussexes will strongly deny this, that Meghan planned Megxit whilst she was dating Harry.
Wow.
Whilst they were boyfriend-girlfriend. She alleges that Oprah came to their wedding because Meghan was planning the tell-all interview when they left the UK.
Yeah.
So it's and here's the kicker. And this is why I'm so critical of Meghan, is because I believe that it was a con trick that Harry married her. And I think that when the Queen said, slow it down, give it a year.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing was so hurried because I believe Meghan wanted to close the deal. She wanted
absolutely.
She wanted
What's
to get
he going to find out in that year?
Bingo, with his due diligence, even Uncle Andrew, right?
Broken
clock that's not even twice right, twice a day. But she got the ring on, so she hurried it along. And this is just my speculation, but if you want to con someone, it's got to be quick, hasn't it? So when you get the email going, I'm in Singapore and I need money now. It's always urgent. And Meghan's like,
and she knew that.
So Charlotte alleges on my show, which the couple will deny, that Meghan leveraged her body clock, her reproductive timeline, saying, Harry, we've got to do this because I
haven't got long left.
I've not got long left.
Yeah.
And then the other final kicker for you, just because I just wanted to give you the juiciest stuff.
Go on then.
Which is the allegation that Meghan pretended to Harry that she was happy to live in South Africa, going as far as looking at houses online in South Africa, which she had no intention of living in. Now, I'll stress the couple tonight.
So, moving on to something totally different then, and that is Keir Starmer's woeful week last week.
Oh, boy.
Head in hands. Is there a worse picture? Do you think it was a genuine moment of like, oh my God, stop asking me questions, I don't know the answer? Do you think, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that disastrous PMQs?
Well, as a seasoned journalist, that it's very unfortunate if you're a public figure because there's just one moment where you eat a sandwich badly or you blow your nose or you sneeze and it'll just make you look like a strange person. So I don't think that we have had it in the past. With this administration, we've had Rachel Reeves crying.
With the tears. Oh,
right, which I don't think was a great look.
No.
I mean, she's a human being and my heart goes out to her. It's a tough job.
Yeah.
But when the financial markets react...
Yeah. To you being overly emotional.
It's not great. No. So anyway, Starmer, I think it was basically an unfortunate pose.
Okay. Yeah.
But the picture would have no value
if
it didn't represent a prime minister in office but not in power.
Just in turmoil. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you think. Just as a human being, I don't think he's happy.
So, right. I'm obviously Conservative councillor. So
you've got skin in the game.
I've got skin in the game. I speak to a lot of people, and they really, really, genuinely dislike the man. I don't feel that way. I feel sorry. I feel a bit sorry for him.
Which is probably worse.
Which is worse. Because it's like, do you want a leader of the country, though? Or are you thinking, the poo bloke? Do you know what I mean? No, you want somebody there that is a leader. And at the moment, I don't think that's the case. How on earth can you be asked a question from the leader of the opposition about something as important as the energy crisis at the moment and then kind of just backhand the question to one of your cabinet ministers? What is going on there?
It's not right.
Yeah.
It's actually unethical and it's bad for our politics. Ironic that Starmer pitched himself as an almost religious figure before the election, sort of Reverend Starmer, holier than thou, pious and meek and grown-up politics and decency and a government of service. All of that nonsense. Then he gets into power. This is a multi-millionaire lawyer, Mieka, that doesn't even pay for his own suits. Right?
Yeah,
a self-declared socialist who has his posh spectacles paid for by a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Make it make sense. And, this is, back to Meghan. How can I be so harsh on Meghan? Because I don't think she's an honest person. And I think it's the issue with Starmer is not only is he inauthentic, I mean, he's barely real. He's Britain's first ChatGPT Prime Minister. Isn't it?
Yeah.
The human manifestation of AI
Yeah.
in politician form.
Well, him and Reeves.
Oh my goodness.
There could be like AI bots talking to each other, couldn't there? Like,
so right. And just like ChatGPT, they both hallucinate with a lot of nonsense. Where did that come from? So, but yeah, so I just think that what I don't like about Starmer, apart from all of the bad policies.
Yeah.
So, all you do, you clobber business, you make it harder to hire people. What happens? Unemployment comes back with a vengeance. We pretty much got rid of unemployment.
Yeah.
It was a statistical rounding error.
Yeah.
By the way, fair play, under your mates, the Tories. Inflation was 2% under Rishi Sunak. It's approaching 4% now. Growth 0% in January. The statistics. So we've got the horrible policies, but worse than that is just this double speak. Where he says we're fixing the foundations of the economy. Is that what it looks like? We're going to smash the gangs. You mentioned that Starmer would not answer Kemi Badenoch's excellent questions at the dispatch box. It was so bad for Nigel Farage that he had to actually walk out of the chamber because Farage said, well, you become Prime Minister. You said you'd smash the gangs. 70,000 illegal immigrants since you entered office. So his refusal to answer the question, the Orwellian doublespeak, the bad policies, and of course, we know it's going to be Armageddon in May. I understand. I think there are 50 seats in Sunderland. And he's predicted to lose every single one of them.
Crikey.
Right? And that all goes to mostly reform. And he's going to lose large swathes of London to the Greens. And the boob whisperer.
Yeah. Oh,
old Big Zach Polanski.
What the... Yeah. That's another topic entirely, the boob whisperer. So I suppose kind of linking what we've just talked about with the disastrous PMQs and Kemi's question, what is your kind of stance on this North Sea oil situation? Do you think we need to be drilling in the North Sea? Do you think we need to ditch the net zero for now? Like, what are your thoughts on what Keir should be doing about this?
Well, call me old-fashioned, but in the 90s and in the 2000s, before the world went completely mad...
Yes.
Before it wasn't an extremist position to have border control. Yeah. Before it wasn't an extremist position to believe that there's men and women and biological sex. Well, we also used to believe in those halcyon days of an energy mix. And it wasn't controversial. The idea was that green renewables it's new technology, it's an experiment. It's a gamble. It's a roll of the dice. It's developing. It's going to get cheaper over time. And then you would support that with nuclear and fossil. And it's an energy. Now, if you propose an energy mix, you're a bad person.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You're a climate denier.
Yeah.
It's a mix. I mean, is anyone...
Of course it should be a mix.
Right.
Of course it should be.
If you had, let's imagine you had a nice place in the country.
Yeah.
Are you averse to a part of the roof on the back is a solar panel, and then that heats the house in the winter?
Absolutely, you would do that.
Happy days.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
I remember at school, do you remember the calculator with the little solar panel on it, right?
Yeah.
So there's no problem. It's quite efficient technology.
Yeah.
And similarly, we've got, wave power, a couple of windmills, fine. But what it's stopped being, Mieka, is an energy mix, and it's become an ideology of net zero.
100%. And what's the point when you've got China and you've got America? If they're not doing it, why should we be doing it?
Bingo. We approximate to 1% of the global emissions. We already, a good 40-50% of our energy comes from renewables, which is fantastic. But you only have to look to Germany as a warning to the West, because they have essentially deindustrialized, which is a little bit of a problem because the entire basis of their economy is making fridges, washing machines and Mercedes-Benz cars. So they've chosen economic suicide, and you can see that they've barely had growth in 3 years. They had a year-long recession, which was a bit ironic because I don't remember when they had Brexit. Who knew? Did you know the UK post-Brexit has actually outpaced Germany for growth since 2016? It's wild. Now, I'm not saying Brexit...
I didn't know that, actually.
No,
so that's,
it's quotable, and I'm not going to say that Brexit didn't have bumps in the road, but the bottom line is the sky didn't collapse. Project Fear did not materialise. So this is what we've got. It's energy security is national security.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing, Mieka, to think that in the midst of an energy crisis, we're not using oil and gas on our own shores? Now, I'm going to
I think it is mental.
Well, it is,
I think it's mental. I can't. If somebody could sit and explain through Ed's thoughts to me, I would appreciate that, because I can't get my head around it. Why wouldn't we be doing it?
Well, you've nailed it, that it is mental. And the reason why it cannot be explained is because it's like a religion.
Yeah.
It's faith-based.
Yes.
It's ideological, and you're one of the good people, and you're in the good tribe. It's the same people that think it's okay now to beat up on British Jewish people, calling them Zionists. If you're a Zionist, what you mean is you believe that Jewish people should have their own state in the form of Israel. So it's it's the kind of crazy extreme ends of the sort of progressive woke mindset. And like I say, somehow they like to characterize you that you only want to burn oil and gas. We're not stupid.
No.
I realize
we've got to do both.
Going to run out. Yeah. Exactly. So, but the stats are pretty wild. And I had a quick look at this, Mieka. So, for example, more than half of UK gas now comes from abroad. But we have gas.
We've got it.
Now, Ed Miliband, to be fair to him, right, because we know this show is not going to echo chamber. We don't do narratives. He has said that if we drill, it won't bring energy prices down. And actually, that's true.
But it's the security about it, isn't it?
It's the supply. The reason why it won't immediately bring down energy costs is because oil and gas is charged at a global rate.
Yes.
On the international energy markets. So that bit's true. But the whole point is that we could get the supply, our own supply. Yeah. We would make money from it.
Jobs.
So yes, and your jobs is huge. So at the moment, it's 200,000 jobs in the oil industry.
Yeah.
That could grow. The other interesting thing is that even the sort of net zero fanatics have shot themselves in the foot, because if you actually incentivize oil and gas companies to do exploration, then as a quid pro quo and as a thank you, they will then invest in green renewables on your behalf.
Interesting.
And that's how we had until, like I said, the world went mad. So what you'd say to BP is, look, we know that you've literally got your tongue hanging out looking at all that oil. Right? You are craving that oil. Knock yourself out. But what we want is a few billion into green renewable exploration, and now that would be R&D and hardware and all that. And they couldn't be happier to do that, because it's a new side of their business model anyway. But I mean, look, proof of it, evidence base is all you need, right? The evidence doesn't back it up. When they had the auctions for the wind licenses, there were no takers.
So, whereas with the oil, they're just absolutely desperate to.
So we are going to. I'm optimistic that common sense will prevail. The issue we've got a little bit is how irreversible some of this government's net zero policy is going to be. So first of all, the jobs and the skills go elsewhere. Secondly, will BP and Shell and others have the confidence in the UK market to come back? Because they can say, well, look what happened last time. The other issue is we are pouring concrete into some oil wells. So this is like vandalism. The whole thing is. But we've got about 20 to 30 years of oil, 20 to 30 years of gas, maybe 50 years of gas.
Let's just do it.
There are some suggestions that we've got, and this is what I've been told in some quarters, that we've got over 50 years worth of coal. Now, if there was World War III, you're using that coal.
Of course.
We need to get real. So anyway, it's all lunacy, and unfortunately, it's not going to change, particularly because if Starmer goes, one of the front runners is Ed Miliband. By the way, I've got a theory. I've upset you, I know. I mean, we're supposed to have a nice chat and I've ruined your day. But I've got a theory as to what's going on with Ed Miliband, which is his father was an ultra-socialist thinker, professor called Ralph Miliband. He's a big theoretical socialist thinker, writer. I think he was a professor as well. And I think he's no longer with us. But I think this is Ed's sort of,
like
seeking
ode to him,
recognition because his brother David is much more moderate,
like more sensible.
Speaking of David Miliband, there are lots of people on the left that think that this government's net zero policy is insane. Tony Blair is on record as saying drill baby drill. And Bill Gates, Epstein's bestie.
What's Bill Gates got to do with it?
He's gone very quiet. But Bill Gates, who was Mr. Global Warming, about 6 months ago, said we need to skip that now and focus on poverty. Go figure.
Interesting.
And of course, the left-wing unions are furious.
His own backbenchers. So, biggest news story of the day so far. Scott Mills.
Huge.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what a headache for the BBC. And it's so funny, I've just been watching them cover the Scott Mills story, which is always a bit cringe, isn't it? You're like,
really.
they're trying to like do the best to not sound like bias or what have you.
No,
but it's tricky
and
for them,
a couple
isn't
of
it?
years ago, the person reading the bulletin about Scott Mills being sacked
Would have been Hugh.
Would have been Hugh
Yeah.
Edwards, who, by the way, stayed on the payroll at the BBC for about 6 months whilst he was being investigated on full pay. He's got a gold-plated BBC pension. But now,
Wow.
Scott Mills, well, let's do the kind of grown-up bit first.
Yes, of course.
We don't have any details.
Nope.
And everyone's innocent till proven guilty.
Yeah.
It could be that Scott Mills, who is a very talented guy, host of the BBC Radio 2 breakfast show.
Mm-hmm.
So BBC Radio 2, well, it's my understanding, I think it's the biggest radio station in the country.
Yeah.
And therefore the breakfast show will be one of the biggest
Yeah,
shows.
it's the flagship show, I would
Flagship.
imagine.
It's
I mean,
huge.
everybody knows who Scott Mills is.
Big star. He was a big star at Radio 1.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I mean, it was so crazy at the time because Chris Moyles, I'm a big fan of his.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Moyles will be chuckling into his cup of tea this evening, because he was replaced by Scott
I can
Mills.
remember that. Yeah.
Now, he came in to the BBC. This is how illogical the BBC are.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and he basically did a Jose Mourinho. So when Jose Mourinho, the football manager, came to Chelsea in UK the first time, and he did a press conference, he said, "I'm the special one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to win everything." Very brave. He went and did that. Old Chris Moyles did the same thing. He did a Mourinho.
Yeah.
He came in and said, "I am going to save the Radio 1 breakfast show." He said, "I'm going to save Radio 1." What does he do? He saves them, quadruple the audience.
Yeah.
So massive star. He gets sacked or allowed to leave because he was too old. Replaced by Scott Mills, who searches Wikipedia, is just a couple of years younger.
Yeah.
And yet, so anyway, so Scott Mills comes in. He's had a completely charmed life and a great career. Radio 1, now Radio 2. Let's not forget that this is the coveted breakfast show slot, previously hosted by the icon that is Chris Evans. Before that, Sir Terry Wogan.
Wow.
So it's one of the great gigs in all media. The idea that someone that's sat in that chair, the same chair that Wogan sat in, and Evans, has to leave the building with immediate effect, no notice period, no thanks for the years of support, out on his ear. Now, is he going to sue the BBC? He may. Does he feel wronged? He may. Does he find another career somewhere else? What we're able to talk about without further speculating is the key facts are that he had to go straight away.
He has a personal conduct.
Personal conduct.
Yeah.
And that's a serious allegation.
Okay.
And the damage is done because it's another BBC star
Yeah.
that leaves the organisation in disgrace. Greg Wallace, Hugh Edwards, who we mentioned, and then, of course, the long history at the BBC of people who are so egregious you don't even want to go there, Savile, all the rest of it. Now, I understand that that's on another scale, I get it. But it's just more bad headlines. Strictly's in trouble.
Strictly,
That's their big flagship show. They actually had to bring people in to sort of support the stars so they couldn't be bullied by the professional dancers. I mean, Amanda Abingdon is still furious about that. They can't find a replacement for Claudia Winkleman. They're really struggling. They're looking at Miranda Hart, who's lovely, but she's not been on the box for 10 years. Is that the best you've got? So the BBC, this is going to be, it'll be leveraged against them by those that think, why do I pay the licence fee? Another,
100%.
isn't it? What's the headline? Another out of control
Yeah.
star. I will say, like you, I've been in this business for a long time, and I've seen, especially at the BBC, how untouchable some of these stars are. They're like gods.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because I think it is a dying audience. I mean, I've got to say I've never watched an episode of Strictly, so I don't know if that's weird or not weird.
Yeah, it's
Scott Mills.
There's a lot of
don't listen
dancing.
to him.
Basically, they have to dance really quickly, and then
Yeah.
and then there's a vote,
Yeah. So.
and then someone cries normally. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not missing anything.
No, but it's. Do people, it's just the audience is shrinking, isn't it? I think.
Well, it
for the
is.
BBC.
Oh gosh, it is. And what they need is, what they have to have, because, like you said, the audience is shrinking. If they don't have the big brands, which would be things like Strictly, The Traitors, they've got a handful of hits, basically.
Yeah.
And then one of the big ones is Radio 2. Let me tell you, Radio 2 is like it's the crown jewels. Because Radio 1, I mean, that is just like absolutely in the toilet. because it's not cool. Young people don't listen to it.
Yeah.
The BBC have got no connection. It's ironic because the BBC get rid of old presenters to get a young audience. It doesn't work because most of the people that watch the BBC are older, and that's the people that the BBC have the most contempt for because they don't make programmes for them anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they hold their nose when they commission Mrs. Brown's Boys. Up in Islington, they're embarrassed by it.
That is the worst show ever, though, isn't it?
How dare you? I think it's up there
What,
with Monty Python.
are you a secret fan?
What it is, I don't watch a lot of it, but I just like how naughty it is. I like how politically incorrect it is.
I can't get my head around. Maybe it's just
don't get me wrong, it ain't The Office. But it's a classic example of a show that's enjoyed by many millions of people, and therefore they shouldn't be. And of course, it's all about opinions. But the BBC needs to get back to like connection with its audience.
Yeah.
The Radio 2 thing is a big one. I mean, the greatest scandal in recent decades was the treatment of Ken Bruce. Now, this man is a wizard. He's a maverick on the radio, and he hosted the Radio 2 mid-morning show for, I'd say, 3 decades. This guy had the biggest audience on Radio 2. Now, if you understand radio, mid-morning is not supposed to be the big show. It's supposed to be breakfast. So he's bigger than the breakfast show. And it wasn't just the biggest radio show in the UK. It was actually had the biggest audience in the whole of Europe. His contract was allowed to run down at the BBC. And the clock's ticking. And he's like, hello, are we going to, is someone going to call me? I have the biggest radio show in Europe. Why?
So what was it? Why was it?
Male, pale and stale.
Oh,
he's not
God's
trendy.
sake.
He's not trendy. He's not, whatever. Any boxes to tick.
But it's the ratings. That's the bottom line.
And
isn't
it shows that the BBC, in my opinion, have contempt for their audience because if you respected your audience, you'd keep Ken Bruce because you'd look at the numbers and you'd understand.
People love him.
And they sidelined Steve Wright, who had, again, a ridiculous audience, cricket school numbers, shoved onto the weekend and then quietly retired. And one of his closest friends said the guy died of a broken heart. So that is your BBC.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's the end of our chat. I think that's everything for today's Expresso. So thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Mieka. I loved it.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for listening today. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.